Strap on your seatbelt and prepare for takeoff. You're about to go on a journey. It's First Contact Radio with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk, thank you very much. This is Josh Poet. You're listening to First Contact Radio, bringing you the news that you're not going to hear out there normally on the mainstream media. They'll tell you some of this stuff, but then they kind of shy away because, well, it's not within their vested interest. The battle that we are facing as humans upon this planet is a battle against evil forces. As St. Paul of the Apostle says, our battle is not with flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities beyond what we can see. And when you think about that and you realize that, you begin to understand how people can be influenced by things that they can't see. It happens all the time, and while it happens on a spiritual level, it's also happening on a physical level here on earth. Case in point, our first story we're going to get to today is about Google, and we have a new whistleblower which has just come forward talking about the ways in which people are manipulated by things they can't see. In this case, algorithms that Google makes and uses in their machine learning process. It says, Google machine learning fairness whistleblower goes public, says burden is lifted off my soul. There's a video here. It's 19 minutes long. Very, very good video where he outlines what he's doing, why he's doing it, and how the police came, because he has this evidence about problems going on with the company that are working against not only the personal interest of everybody using Google, but the interest of our country. So he's exposing something that is very important. It says a Google insider who anonymously leaked internal documents to Project Veritas made the decision to go public in an on-the-record interview. The insider, Zachary Vahoris, decided to go public after receiving a letter from Google and after he says Google allegedly called the police to perform a wellness check on him. Along with the interview, Voorhees says Project Veritas asked Veritas to publish more of the internal Google documents than had previously leaked. He said, I gave the documents to Project Veritas. I had been collecting the documents for over a year. The reason why I collected these documents was because I saw something dark and nefarious going on with the company, and I realized that they were going not only to tamper with the elections, but use that tampering with the elections to essentially overthrow the United States. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. It shouldn't matter what side you're on. That's a big deal. In June of 2019, Project Veritas published internal Google documents revealing algorithmic unfairness. Voorhees told Project Veritas that these documents were widely available to full-time Google employees. These documents were available to every single employee within the company that was full-time. And so as a full-time employee at the company, I just searched for some keywords and these documents started to pop up. So once I started finding one document and started finding keyword for other documents, I would enter that in and continue the cycle until I had a treasure trove, an archive of documents that clearly spelled out the system, what they're attempting to do in very clear language. Shortly after the report, including the algorithmic unfairness documents, were published, Voorhees received a letter from Google containing several demands. Voorhees told Project Veritas that he complied with Google's demands, which included a request for any internal Google documents that he may have personally retained. He also said he sent those documents to the Department of Justice Antitrust Division. After having been identified in an anonymous account, which Voorhees believes belongs to a Google employee and a social media as a leaker, he was approached by law enforcement as a resident in California. According to Voorhees, San Francisco police received a call from Google which prompted a wellness check. He said they got inside the gate, the police, they started banging on my door, and so the police decided that they were going to call in additional forces. They called in the FBI, they called in the SWAT team, and they called in a bomb squad. This is a large way in which Google tries to intimidate their employees that go on rogue on the company. All right, there's video here. There are links down here to the documents, and here you go. I'm just passing it along because it's out there and these things need to be understood. You see, Google doesn't matter if you're right, left, or in the center. Doesn't matter. We've become too politicized these days and we're missing the point because of it. We've allowed the division to take us from really clearly seeing what is happening to our society and how others are trying to subjugate it. Google isn't the president, but they, because of the social networks and what they're able to do, and so many people are used to that source, they can manipulate things and in the process manipulate those who are trusting that source. It's not just happening now, it's been happening for quite some time. It is just coming out. He said he's been collecting files for what, a year? Okay, that's a long time. Before those files could even get in there, they had to be working on this years before. So either we can turn a blind eye to all of this, or we could realize that there is something affecting all of us as American citizens. We need to wake up from the illusion, my friends. We can either keep looking at the illusion, or we can peek behind the curtain, see what's really going on. And then we find out the world's a little different than we thought. So I've got the WikiLeaks or the ProjectVeritas.com page here, as well as the video and the story about the bomb that came out there, the bomb dogs and the squad, and how they did all of that. It's quite incredible. Quite incredible that an American citizen would be treated like that, especially by the company that they work for. But that shows you how the machine is wanting to fight back. Now, something is inspiring that. Okay, we're not seeing these algorithms behind the surface unless we dig. Most people don't even know they exist or are there. They just see this Google works, so they take it all for granted. But what is influencing those individuals who are doing this? There's some dark force, dark something out there. And throughout our spiritual history, we have heard about these dark forces, and we need to be able to be aware because they do creep into society, and then a lot of ugliness comes of those. Okay, so we're going to switch gears from there over to the Epstein case, and we're going to get more specifically into Ghislaine Maxwell. It says Epstein's Madam Ghislaine Maxwell living with tech CEO in multi-million oceanfront mansion. Said the 57-year-old British heiress was discovered laying low in a $3 million secluded oceanfront property at the end of a long private road in New England with her boyfriend, 43-year-old tech CEO Scott Borgeson, according to the Daily Mail. The socialite's New England hideaway is an imposing three-story colonial property with 5 bedrooms, wraparound terraces, and sweeping grounds, which reach to the ocean. The property is owned by tech CEO and maritime academic Dr. Scott Borgeson. He was seen by DailyMail.com in July running errands in the affluent community of Manchester by the sea, half an hour drive from Boston. The former Coast Guard officer is also a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. He was married and is believed to have 2 children. Okay, I've been talking about the Council on Foreign Relations, right? 1919. Now we have a connection in there of this group, this society, to something that goes back a long time, the elite mindset back then. It's not about left, it's not about right, it's about a belief in a different type of mindset, an elitist type mindset. Okay, so it says Maxwell has been accused by at least 3 women of procuring and training young girls to perform massage and sexual acts on Epstein and his associates. Maxwell was said to have hired, supervised, and fired household staff while directing the visits of dozens of massage therapists to Epstein's residence, according to the Wall Street Journal. Her father was publisher Robert Maxwell, who himself faced accusations of being a Mossad double and possibly triple agent and a bad character who was almost certainly financed by Russia. According to the British Foreign Office, Robert Maxwell died in 1991 when he fell from his yacht, the Lady Ghislaine. However, the circumstances surrounding his demise have been rife with speculations, including that it was a Mossad assassination. Epstein and Maxwell reportedly met and began dating around 1992, shortly after her father's death in 95. Epstein renamed a now defunct Palm Beach company Ghislaine Corp. which was dissolved in 1998 per the Wall Street Journal. In 2003, Epstein described Maxwell as his best friend, who was not on his payroll yet seemed to organize much of his life. Maxwell also attended a Chelsea Clinton's wedding and has been linked to other prominent people such as Prince Andrew, Donald Trump, and Alan Dershowitz. While Maxwell hasn't been charged in any of Epstein's crimes, speculation has swirled that she is an unnamed co-conspirator in the case against him. According to Bill Barr, Attorney General, this case will continue on, and anyone who is complicit with Epstein and co-conspirators should not rest easy, adding that the victims deserve justice and will get it. Okay, story at Zero Hedge. Here we have report Maxwell told friend that Epstein's entire island was wired for video, presumably for blackmail purposes. I kept hearing Tommy Lee Jones' voice. Your fugitive's name is Ghislaine Maxwell. Starts off, we must find this degenerate wherever she may be hiding, globally, and bring her to justice. In the meantime, after reading this Vanity Fair piece, I'm revisiting my theory about the mysterious temple on Epstein's pedophile island. Old theory, the temple is a satanic playground where Epstein and his jet set cohorts would do some unspeakable things to children as part of some ritual to Zozo or whatever. New theory, the temple is actually a massive surveillance hub where Epstein would review and store all of the blackmail footage he had recorded on the guests of his island, and also a satanic playground where he and his pals would do unspeakable things to children as part of the ritual sacrifice to Zorro or whoever. All right, this is an article at Hot Air describing some more behavior that will come to light with all of this. We'll find out what's going on. The whole case with the death or the alleged death of Epstein from prison is all very suspicious. It's hard to take that just at face value considering all the anomalies and the rumors flying around out there about the possibility that he was removed and is being kept someplace safe so that he could make it to the trial. I don't know if that's the case, but that's what's out there. Wouldn't that be something, though, if trial days are going on and he just suddenly appears? It would be something, but who knows? This is quite a fascinating movie that is playing itself out. We'll just have to wait and see what goes on. Here I have a story at the Daily Caller. Says Epstein accuser sues Maxwell staffers for allegedly enabling sexual abuse. One of Jeffrey Epstein's accusers filed a lawsuit against Epstein's estate, his associate Ghislaine Maxwell, and three female staffers on Wednesday. Jennifer Arose first filed papers to sue Epstein, an alleged child sex trafficker. On July 10th, the same day, she publicly announced the alleged abuse in an NBC News interview. The lawsuit follows Epstein's apparent suicide in a Manhattan jail Saturday and alleges Maxwell and three female staffers conspired with each other to make possible and otherwise facilitate the sexual abuse and the rape of Arose. Wednesday's lawsuit amends the first lawsuit Arose filed against Epstein. His estate will be included in the lawsuit. Arose is one of the multiple people who has accused Maxwell of helping or being an enabler in Epstein's alleged child sex trafficking ring. Some say Maxwell recruited them as underage girls, and others allege she helped schedule visits to Epstein, NBC News reported. Maxwell allegedly participated with and assisted Epstein in maintaining and protecting the sex trafficking ring. According to Wednesday's lawsuit, the lawsuit is also filed against a secretary, maid, and a recruiter. She also allegedly helped intimidate potential witnesses. Okay, so we will see how this one plays out. Further, George Clooney accused of sex acts with ex-lover of Prince Andrew's pedo pal Jeffrey Epstein. Another Hollywood connection to some of the bad activities that's going on out there. Says George Clooney was sensationally accused of a sex act with the ex-lover of Prince Andrew's pedo pal Jeffrey Epstein overnight. The star, 58, was dragged into the scandal after Epstein's jail death. He's claimed to have performed a sex act with his lover. Maxwell is accused of recruiting young girls. Okay, so there you go. So that's another thing that will be unfolding, another peg in the old Hollywood machine that is going on out there. Jeffrey Epstein had a painting of Bill Clinton wearing a blue dress and red heels and lounging in the Oval Office inside his Manhattan mansion. Visitor reveals bizarre image inside pedophile's $56 million lair. Jeffrey Epstein had a bizarre portrait of Bill Clinton in a dress hanging in his Manhattan mansion. Daily Mail TV can reveal the picture depicting the former president apparently lounging on a chair in the Oval Office, wearing red heels, posing suggestively in a blue dress, redolent of Monica Lewinsky, was in a room off a stairway of the Upper East Side townhouse. The dress is also strikingly similar to the one worn by Hillary Clinton at the 2009 Kennedy Center Honors. The original painting is by Australian American artist Petra Kennan-Cleed. Also, it is unclear if Epstein had bought the canvas or had a print mounted. This painting was secretly snapped inside the pedophile's lavish $56 million home in October 2012, 4 years after Epstein completed his sweetheart deal for prostitution of a minor and 7 years before he was accused of running a sex trafficking ring of underage girls. All right, so another weird thing, but hey, with what's going on these days, who's to say, right? I'm just letting you know what's out here. That there's some really, really bizarre stuff. Bizarre stuff. The world, I think, is revealing itself. The bad behavior is revealing itself. The more that there is action taken to want to bring to justice and bring to light the problems that are out there with this trafficking, the more it seems to kind of reveal itself in its desperate sort of ways. It's desperate sort of ways. We could see that. Now, today there's a shooting going on right now in Pennsylvania, out in Philadelphia. A number of officers apparently have already been shot. None seem to be life threatening at this point in time, thank goodness. There's been multiple shooters. Several have been arrested. There is still one that seems to be out there picking off these cops, as was described. Hopefully, that thing will come to light soon. But things like this happen, unfortunately and coincidentally, at times when other big news comes out. The news about that came out today about Google, the Project Veritas thing, is very important, but it's not being discussed because this is covering everything. The shooting, the stuff about Epstein and Ghislaine that I talked about now and brought those stories, it's not being discussed on the mainstreams because this has captured everything. As well it would, but sometimes these events out there are planned in certain ways in order to try to distract from what's going on. So you have to look beyond these shootings, these events. You have to put them in a category by themselves, but not allow them to dominate the whole news cycle and see what else is out there in the eventuality that there is something nefarious about all of this and the timing of all of this. Now, why do these things happen? And why are we in a society where we're having this mind issues? You know, I've said over and over that this is a battle for the mind that is going on. Every day you wake up, you're going to either have your mind or somebody else is going to take it. Every single day. And we've got a challenge these days in that the search for truth is not really revered as it used to be in the past. In order to search for truth, one needs to be open-minded, one needs to be unbiased at the topic they're looking at, and one needs to move in a logical progression. And you need to allow the information to reveal to you the answer. But we've gotten in this conditioned mindset that it needs to be the other way around. That you determine what your result is and then you work backwards to find. And while maybe there are some applications where that might work, this isn't the way it works with this kind of thinking and searching for truth. And we're in a day and age now where emotions are running so high that people are not even in their logical minds. If one just takes a look at what's going on out there in the social sphere, on Twitter, on Facebook, it is really this unbelievable discussion of groups of people who are at odds with each other. But what I see, without trying to, to make it about a right left thing, but what I do see in observation is that there are many that claim to be Democrats or on the left or liberals that have taken this it's our way or the highway attitude. They know it all, and there's not 1 inch or 1 iota of opportunity to think that maybe they're incorrect. And when you hear the comments that are taking place on the Twitters and the Facebooks, it's the same conversation, even in daily life, in real life. It's the same conversation. Either to call you a name, that's the first thing that they go to, call you a name, or spout out some little sound clip that's lodged in their mind. Now, why is this happening? Very simple. It's because of the control that is going on to take over the mind. And it's been so successful that there's a large generation of people that has bought hook, line, and sinker into the brainwashing that has taken place, and they don't even realize it. Okay? The church committee. Talked about that a couple days ago. Want to talk about it again a little bit more in depth. The church committee, formerly the United States Senate Select Committee to study governmental operations with respect to intelligence activities, was a U.S. Senate Select Committee in 1975 that investigated abuses by the CIA, the NSA, the FBI, and the IRS. Chaired by Idaho Senator Frank Church, the committee was part of a series of investigations into intelligence abuses in 1975, dubbed the Year of Intelligence, including its House counterpart, the Pike Committee, and the Presidential Rockefeller Commission. The committee's efforts led to the establishment of the permanent U.S. Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. Okay? Now that's very important. But let's see a little bit more of what was discovered during this. This was an article from 2015. It says this week marks the 40th anniversary of the Church Committee calling CIA Director William Comey to testify in revelations that U.S. intelligence agencies had engaged in controversial covert action against foreign leaders and U.S. citizens. Chaired by Senator Frank Church, Democrat, the committee held a series of hearings and published 14 reports as it investigated the legality of intelligence operations by the CIA, NSA, FBI, including attempts to assassinate foreign leaders, spying on Martin Luther King Jr., and monitoring the political activities of other U.S. citizens. Today, the reforms put in place following the Church Committee hearings are up for discussion in the wake of the Edward Snowden intelligence leaks and the revelation of how much data the government, especially the NSA, was collecting on U.S. citizens. Brookings non-resident senior fellow Stuart Taylor detailed the history of U.S. government surveillance programs and the Church Committee's response in his Brookings essay, The Big Snoop, Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Terrorists, writing that Watergate shocked the American public and spurred many of its representatives in Congress to demand an investigation into the past activities of the FBI, CIA, NSA, and others. The result was the creation of two congressional committees in 75, chaired by Frank Church in the Senate and Otis Pike in the House of Representatives. Their hearings exposed secret, arguably illegal, wiretapping, bugging, and harassment of American citizens, including Supreme Court justices, reporters, and government officials, all in the name of collecting intelligence about the threats to national security. The most notorious case, first exposed in the 1960s and fully documented by the Church Committee, was the wiretapping of Martin Luther King Jr. by the NSA and by the FBI under J. Edgar Hoover, who believed him to be part of a communist conspiracy. The Church Committee's investigation also led to the passage of the FISA Act in 1978. The FISA court was originally designed to guard executive branch surveillance programs from the public, while entrusting the other branches of government could oversee activities. All right, so you can see this is very problematic because the minds of people watching the media were being controlled. People were being surveilled. We even go deeper. What was exposed during these It says here in this article in 74, the New York Times broke a story that the CIA had violated its charter by spying on U.S. citizens who openly opposed the Vietnam War. An investigation followed, headed by Senator Frank Church, and his committee uncovered a wealth of damaging information about the agency that went far. During the mid 70s, Senator Frank Church headed a Senate Intelligence Committee investigation into abuses committed by the CIA, including monitoring of U.S. citizens with no intelligence ties, the testing of LSD on unsuspecting participants, and numerous assassination attempts on the lives of foreign leaders. Well, it would seem that maybe, because at that time, this was a Democrat that was doing that. A Democrat. At one time, they were very interested in wanting to make sure the intelligence agencies were operating properly. It's not the same way these days. Maybe these assassinations of their leaders got them to change sides. Maybe they realized that the deep state was far too dangerous. I also have here a list of church committee hearing videos. Looks like there's 8 videos here on this playlist, so that's available so you can listen to them, check it out. But this is part of the mind control apparatus, okay? The church committee determined that there were 400 CIA agents that were working in the media, in the mainstream media. That means they're going out and they're using their tools, their ways of controlling the mind in order to do exactly that, control the mind. Control the mind through their programs, and people will not even know if you do it right. And as I said before, it's worked so well that most people are unaware. But I can tell you how I know that they have been affected, and once you understand, you can tell as well. When you look at what people are saying, you go to the Facebooks, the social networks, and you look what people are saying that are of that mindset, the leftist mindset. They're all saying exactly the same thing. They're spitting out the same words because those words were programmed into them. That's why. It's not an original thought. I can tell you exactly when I believe that when this brainwashing took place. It happened about a week after Donald Trump came down the escalator, with Melania. Because in that first week, he gave a couple of interviews, and some of the things that he said were not quite as polished as they are now. And so they took those sound clips, they put them together in little 5, 10-second clips, and they played them about a gazillion times. And in that first week, it locked in. And now, if somebody tells you they hate Trump and you ask why, they spit out to you the same things that they were taught then. He's a racist. He's a bigot. He's a homophobe. They got him then. And ever since then, it's been autopilot. And that's what's going on. So the only thing that can be done is we have to understand these are our brothers and sisters out there, but we have to have a way to interrupt their programming. Asking questions, not taking serious because they're just operating because their minds have been taken over. It's not real difficult when you look at it. And that's what it's all about. So, knowing this information is important because it helps us to understand the mechanism so we can stand against it, because awareness, as they say, is 50% of the battle. Don't take my word for it. There's links here available. Check them out. Find where it leads you, because you're going to find that there's a whole wealth of information available and a whole lot of history that many people are unaware of. If you were born after 9/11, 2001, there's a whole world that you don't even know existed before, or a lot of bad things happened that set the precedent for what's going on now. It's important to know those things. It's important to be aware of what happened, because those reasons and those things are why things are going on now. And the descriptions I read of the church committee, well, that sounds like what's happening exactly right now. The only thing is there's a difference in one party is wanting to investigate that, and the other party seems to have flipped to be a part of it. So stand against it, my friends. Be strong. Put on the armor of God. Know that God wins in the end, and we will weather the storm to make it through to another day. Thanks again for checking out the show. First Contact Radio is a place you can go to see all the links and read all the stories from today's episode. Think for yourself. God bless you. I'm out of here.